Welcome to Motorcycle Memories Stories from the Road, riding high and flying low. This episode takes us from Columbus, Ohio to Hartsville, Indiana. If you find yourself riding on Route 40 through Ohio, I found a few places that I thought would be worth stopping at. In London, Ohio, if you want to stop for food and drink, you'll find the Red Brick Tavern, which dates back to 1836. Route 40 will take you through Springfield, Ohio. And if you didn't know, it is home to Frank Lloyd Wright's Westcott home, where you can take tours. Do you have a sweet tooth like me? Well, then don't pass up the chance to stop at Cake Creations Bakery. All I can say is yummy. Route 40 certainly has some great sights along the way, and some really historical places to visit. One of the towns that I wanted to highlight for you in this episode of Motorcycle Memories is Richmond, Indiana. Richmond is known as the crossroads of American history, with a bountiful history that helped shape America. The city has twice received the All-American City Award. Richmond has a population of around 40,000, similar to the small town I grew up in Maine, yet it somehow gives you the feeling of a much bigger town. Richmond is sometimes called the cradle of recorded jazz because it is the home to some of the earliest jazz recordings from such artists as Louis Armstrong, Gene Autry, and Lawrence Welk. When you come through Richmond, there are plenty of hotels to stay at, but I wanted to experience the history of Richmond. I ended up staying at the Philip W. Smith Bed and Breakfast. This Victorian home dates back to 1890. Once I was settled in at the bed and breakfast, I headed downtown to Richmond's historical depot district for some live music, food, and beverages at an old converted firehouse that dates back to the 1800s, now called Firehouse BBQ and Blues. I had sent out an invitation to some of the members of the Motorcycle Owners of America, and despite a terrible weather forecast, some friends came out to visit. We just hung out and talked and enjoyed the night. Now those weather forecasters were wrong. It turned out to be an amazing night, and Richmond was promising to be a great city to visit. Thanks everyone for making my first night in Richmond a memorable one. The next morning I headed back down to the Depot District to meet up with Richmond's mayor, Dave Snow, for some coffee and conversation.
So Richmond is a beautiful, amazing city that of course I love. I mean, I'm biased. But Richmond was known for a long time as a city of firsts, and we have this amazing history that so many people don't know about. But if you take the time to come into the city, you can start to put eyes and start to feel that history and hear it from the locals.
The history that I've seen and looked up, it's just been, that was one of the reasons why I chose to come through Richmond, you know? And missing all these times going by the highway,
right,
and not realizing what a great town and city this was, you know?
It's a fun city. We love our food, we love our coffee, we love our music, we love our art. And so you come here, and if you kind of get into town and dig in a little bit, come to the heart of the city, come to the Depot District, come downtown, you start finding all these old, beautiful buildings and all these little remnants of that history that are still here. Like I said, like in here, this place is just full of lots of independent art because we still value our local artists and our local music, and it's important to us. And so there's a great culture here once you're in the city.
Are there events that are coming up that you would love to have more people come and visit?
Oh my gosh, so many. Oh, that could take a lot of time. But I'll tell you one of our biggest we are very unique in that we hold an outdoor all-weather festival in the dead of winter.
Really?
And we're one of the only cities that does that. So it's called the Meltdown Winter Ice Festival. It's in the last week of January. It's freezing cold and nothing canceled. If it's snowing, if it's sleeting, it's still on. And then we bring ice carvers from all over the country, converge here, some of the best ice carvers in the world. One of them even has an Olympic gold medal in ice carving from the art Olympics. They converge here in Richmond, and we put it out on display. And then there's a big ice, I don't even know how to explain it. We call it ice fights. But they get chainsaws out and they carve blocks of ice in a competition to see who can make the best carving. And this draws over 1,000 people into our park. in freezing cold temperatures, holding hot chocolate, all snuggled together, cheering on these guys with chainsaws carving ice. That's what we do downtown at the end of January. But that's probably one of our signature events.
Oh, I'll be at that one.
Meltdown. You got to come back for Meltdown. Come see me. I want you to come see me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you'll love it. You'll love it. You really will.
Well, this has been a great visit. I've just really enjoyed my time here. Everybody's been wonderful.
I'm thrilled to hear that.
Sincerely wonderful, and what a great experience to have.
Well,
and
thank you.
And thank you for allowing us to come down and meet with you.
Yeah.
And to tell a little bit of story about Richmond. So thank you.
We're always here, always ready to welcome you. Please come back.
Absolutely.
As a little nostalgia bonus, I got to ride in a 1919 Ford Model T with Mayor Dave. We took our Model T for a tour of Richmond's historical depot district, as well as a ride through one of the 19 parks that Richmond has. Wow, what a feeling of nostalgia you get from riding in an old Model T. Thanks, Mayor Dave, for the tour. What better way to step back in time than to go to the Model T Museum?
Welcome to the Model T Museum. We're really pleased to have you here. The museum is owned and operated by the Model T Ford Club of America. We have about 6,000 members. Every state in the U.S. is represented in about 31 countries. We're a 54-year-old organization. We showcase the changes in the Model T over time. We're really fortunate to have here on display two 1909s. To our knowledge, this is the only place in the world that these two types of Model Ts are on display side by side. So the grocery truck is really neat because it comes from New Jersey, and there were two brothers that back in the early 20s they had a grocery fruit market and a meat market, and it grew into a chain of grocery stores that still exists today. And the other thing, we kind of say that we do some myth busting here, and most people think that Model Ts came in black, right? Yeah. Actually, when they first came out, you could only get it in red. It wasn't until 1914 with the assembly line that's when it switched to just black.
When I think of the Ford Model T, once again, you go back to that little car, two-door. Mm-hmm. That's it. I think that's probably the general public that thinks that.
Yeah.
And to see all these vehicles and the different ways that they made them. How many Model Ts do you have?
40.
And what I was saying to you earlier is that the motorcycle memories, stories from the road, is very, try to be nostalgic in when we talk about our memories and stories, right. and to be able to come here and travel back in time,
Definitely.
and talk about memories, and stories. You both have been sharing wonderful stories of all these vehicles.
Yeah. We say that really every Model T that we not only have here, but that people own, every T has a story, and it's really, really neat, and we're able to share that.
I want to thank Susan, who's the executive director of the museum, and Justin for teaching me the history of the Model T, and of course, for the Model T ride. Be sure to visit the museum when you're in Richmond. Now, I was pretty excited when they told me we were going to hit some bike trails. Two things I learned very quickly. One, there's a difference between a bike and a motorcycle to some people. And two, man, am I out of shape. I met up with Ben Willett to ride some of Hayes Arboretum's mountain bike trail system. The trails are rated in the top 10 of Indiana's best trail systems. Now, Ben is a really good mountain biker, and he was showing me some of the features that the trails had to offer. Oh, wait a second. I was like, no way. If you know me and you know how I ride a motorcycle, I'm lucky I got down that ramp. Hey, so Motorcycle Memory Stories from the Road. We are in Richmond, Indiana. I'm at Hayes Mountain Bike Trails. I'm with Ben, who showed me the ropes out here.
we did 40 miles at least, I'm certain of it. But Ben, I want to thank you for letting us come out here and enjoy the trails today.
Great to have you.
Please tell me a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so the trails, we started building them back in 2008, and a large group of volunteers, and we've since built 7.5 miles of mountain bike trails.
Not 40?
Not quite 40. Maybe we can make a few laps and have a little fun. But yeah, it's been a great venture, and appreciate having you guys.
Oh,
here.
absolutely. So if I'm riding in on my motorcycle here, obviously I'm not carrying my bike, but is there a place that we can rent bikes around here to come out here?
Yeah, take a trip over to Cycling Fitness and Warehouse.
Cycling Fitness and Warehouse.
Yeah, they rent bicycles, and you can grab one of the mountain bikes, come out here and ride all day.
Well, it's been great. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And next time I come out, I'll be in better shape, I promise.
Well, Ben just mentioned Cycling and Fitness Warehouse, and that just happens to be the meeting spot of our next Richmond adventure. I met up with a group of cyclists who were going to show me the Cardinal Greenway's bike trails. First priority, though, get me a bike that fits my riding ability. The Cardinal Greenway is the longest rail trail in Indiana, and it spans 62 miles. The terrain is gentle for hikers, joggers, cyclists, skaters, and outdoor enthusiasts. If you want to get in a little exercising and get back to nature, the Cardinal Greenway Bike Trail is surrounded by the sights and sounds of nature. Once we were done riding the Cardinal Greenway, we headed back over to Cycle and Fitness Warehouse, where they have a cafe that you can grab a bite to eat or just sit back, quench your thirst, and talk about your fun adventure on the trails. I want to thank everyone who came out and rode with me and showed me another one of Richmond's great attractions. Our next stop in Richmond that promised to give us the feeling of traveling back in time was Wayne County Historic Museum. The museum is a unique repository of Wayne County and Richmond's history, from early pioneer life through the Industrial Revolution and even into modern times. I met up with John Shipley, the facilities manager.
The lady that purchased it, her name was Julia McGarr, and she was an extremely wealthy individual, and she had the means and wealth to do whatever she wanted, and she wanted to travel the world and bring the world back to Wayne County for the citizens that never had that opportunity. So she traveled the world around 7 times, most of it by herself. The building became available, and she said, I want to purchase that. So she came over and bought it, and then brought her collectibles in here and created a museum for the county. And everything that you see in the museum is all of her endeavors. It's truly amazing. The museum has grown so much through donation over the decades. It's considered within the top 10 of the medium-sized museums in the entire country with the eclectic collection that we have. It's such a diverse collection. This is our mummy. There are only 2 in the state of Indiana. Richmond is blessed to have both of them. Ours dates back to around 950 BC. He lived about 35 years. He stood about 5'6". And since the mummy was purchased in 1929 by Julia when one of her visits in Cairo. So our mummy is very special, and we take very good care of it, and it's just a blessing to have.
Hey, John, I want to thank you for showing us the museum and the amazing treasures that you have in here. It's just incredible.
Pleasure having you. It's been fun.
So if we got some of the motorcycle riders coming in or some visitors coming into Richmond, is there a place that they can go to find out your hours?
Sure. Yeah. You can find us on Facebook at Wayne County Historical Museum, or you can get a hold of us on email at waynecountyhistoricalmuseum.org, and that just gives you everything you need to know.
That's awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much,
Well,
John.
it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
One of the things that Mayor Dave had mentioned earlier was Richmond's history in music. This is known as the Walk of Fame, which highlights 29 famous musicians who recorded in the area.
Hey, so Tina, we are standing in an old piano factory.
Correct.
Called the
Star Jeanette.
Yeah.
It was the Star Piano Factory,
Yeah.
and the Star Piano started in about 1870s, and then the Jeanette family came in about 1890s, and they kind of revived the Star piano. They were making phonographs, and then about 1917, they opened a recording studio just down the way, where they started to actually record records right here in the gorge next to the piano factory.
And now I've heard you had some pretty famous people that recorded there.
We have Louis Armstrong, Gene Autry, Lawrence
wow.
Welk. Those are all recording artists that people may have recognized that have recorded with the Jeanette ladies. This gorge was full of buildings. There was buildings for the piano making, for the phonograph making, and then just down the way was the actual clapper building where they recorded. And they would stuff straw inside the walls to help deaden the sound of the railroad tracks and the trains that would come down. And some of the recordings, you can actually hear the train whistle in the background.
That's awesome. Now this building, you've restored part of it.
Actually owned by the city
Yep.
and operated by the City Parks Department. The Star Jeanette Foundation, they did have a part in helping preserve this building, and they own it and they use it as a public venue so people can rent it to have weddings, graduation parties, proms. They have all kinds of parties down here. And Star Jeanette tries to have a music festival down here in the gorge as well.
So if someone's going to come into town, where can they go to find out about events or shows or tickets, or buy the tickets?
The best place is to start with the Wayne County Tourism.
Okay.
They have all the information that's listed on all the events that happen in Wayne County, whether it be the Shakespeare Festival, Star Jeanette things that are going on. They can also visit Waynette.
Well, I appreciate it. We're going to do a little walk around.
Yeah, no problem.
And do a little bit more of a tour.
Pleasure meeting you.
Thank
Enjoy your
Tina.
visit.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
You too.
The following morning was Memorial Day, and what made my Richmond visit that much more special was the local VFW members had organized a police-escorted procession and had invited me to join them. After a short memorial service at Veterans Field of Honor, we rode to Veterans Memorial Park. The Wayne County Veterans Memorial Park honors all Wayne County veterans for their service to our country. This beautiful memorial park was created by veterans for veterans. The park is a place of peace, beauty, and reverence. As a Marine veteran myself, and someone who comes from a family with a long history of military service, I think it is important that we continue to honor and remember those men and women who have given so much to protect our freedoms. I want to thank State Senator Jeff Rotz, State Representative Dr. Brad Barrett, and Richmond Mayor Dave Snow for their warm hospitality. I want to give a very special thank you to my new friend, Mary Walker, Executive Director of Wayne County Convention and Tourism Bureau. Without her help, none of this would have been possible. Thank you, Mary, and thank you for introducing me to your wonderful town of Richmond. Thanks to the MOA for their sponsorship of Motorcycle Memories Stories from the Road. And last but not least, thank you for watching these videos. Stay tuned for part 2 of Motorcycle Memories, Riding Low and Flying High.